Which expression is equivalent to 9x squared plus 7x squared plus 9x? So this question, we just add together like terms. So the two x squared terms here. So 9 plus 17 is 16. So 16x squared plus 9x. And that's all the simplification we can really do. And this is just answer choice D. Of 900,000 beads, 828,000 are silver. What percentage of the beads are silver? So to find the percentage of silver beads, we just divide the number of silver beads by the total beads. So that'll be 828,000 divided by 900,000, which is just equal to 0.92 if you plug that into your calculator. And 0.92 is just 92%. So for every 100 bead, 92 of them are silver. And that is answer choice D. If 2 times the quantity 3t minus 10 plus t equals 40 plus 4t, what is the value of 3t? Okay, so we can just expand out this quantity here. So we get 6t minus 20 plus t equals 40 plus 4t. And then we can just combine like terms. So 6t plus t is 7t. And let's move this 20 to the other side. So we get 60 plus t, 4t. And then we can move this 4t back to the other side. So we'll get 3t equals 60 here. And then the question asks us for the value of 3t, not just t. So here, 3t equals 60. So our answer is 60. If 5 times the quantity x plus 4 equals 4 times the quantity x plus 4 plus 29, what is the value of x plus 4? Okay, so we only need the value of x plus 4, so we can subtract the quantity 4 times x plus 4 from both sides in order to cancel out this x times the quantity x plus 4. So if we subtract this from both sides of the equation, on the left hand side we'll just be left with 1 x times x plus 4 equal to 0, since 4 times x plus 4 minus 4 times x plus 4 is just 0, and we'll just be left with the 29. So this tells us that x plus 4 just equals 29, which is answer choice C. A neighborhood consists of a 2-hectare park and a 35-hectare residential area. The total number of trees in the neighborhood is 3,934. The equation 2x plus 35y equals 3,934 represents this situation. Which of the following is the best interpretation of x in this context? So since this equation, 2x plus 35y equals 3,934 represents the equation, so this quantity right here is the number of trees, which means that these two quantities added together should equal the total number of trees. And here we're given that there's a 2-hectare park and a 35-hectare residential area. So this should represent the number of trees in the park, since it's showing the 2-hectare park here and then the 35-hectare hectare residential area. Number of trees in residential area. So this, right, the coefficient here shows the size of the area, the 2-hectare park and the 35-hectare residential area. And in order to get the trees from that, we need to know the number of trees, or average number of trees per hectare. And when we multiply that with the size of the area, we get the total number of trees there. So this quantity right here, the x, must be the average number of trees per hectare. Because when we multiply that with the size of the area, we get the number of trees in that area, which we add with the number of trees in the residential area to get the total number of trees. So A has to be the correct answer. For a certain rectangular region, the ratio of its length to its width is 35 to 10. If the width of this rectangular region increases by 7 units, how must the length change to maintain this ratio? So we have a rectangle whose length is 35 units and its width is 10 units. And we can express this ratio as length over width. So 35 over 10. And what happens to this ratio is that the width, 10, increases by 7 units. So we get 17 over some new length, length 2. And this ratio has to be equal since the ratio is maintained. So length 2 changes accordingly to ensure that they're equal. So to solve this, we can just cross multiply like this. So 35 times 17 equals 10 times L2. And then to solve for L2, we can just divide both sides by 10. So 35 times 17 over 10. This is multiplication here. And if we plug that into our calculator, we get that L2 equals 59.5. And the original length was 35. So our length increased by 24.5 in order to maintain the ratio after we increase the width. So the correct answer has to be B. The given equation relates the numbers p and n, where n is not equal to 0 and p is greater than 9. Which equation correctly expresses n in terms of p? So we have this equation, p equals 9 plus 14 over n. And we just need to solve for n in terms of p. So we just need to isolate n. So first we can move the 9 to the other side by subtracting 9 from both sides. So p minus 9 equals 14 over n. And then we can multiply both sides by n. So we'll get n times p minus 9 equals 14. And then we want to get n alone, so we can divide both sides by p minus 9. So we'll get n equals 14 over p minus 9, which is equal to answer choice number D, or answer choice D. The expression 24 over 6x plus 42 is equal to 4 over x plus b, where b is a constant. What is the value of b? So to simplify from this to this, we can just cancel out some common coefficients and then see what the value of b is. So we're left, so we have 24 over 6x plus 42. So we can simplify this to 6 times 4 over 6x plus 6 times 7. So we see here that the number 6 is common to all of these terms. So we can just cancel that out. So just cancel out 6 from all of it. And we're left with 4 over x plus 7. And this is the same as this expression here, except we can see that the b is actually 7 now. So the value of b is 7, A. Circle A in the xy plane has this equation. Circle B has the same center as circle A. The radius of circle B is 2 times the radius of circle A. The equation defining circle B in the xy plane is this, where k is constant. What is the value of k? So circle A is a circle in the xy plane whose radius is equal to 2, because this equation for a circle is x minus h whole squared plus y minus k whole squared equals r squared, where r is the radius. So here 4 is equal to 2 squared. So this is like r squared. So here the radius is 2. The radius is not 4. And then circle B is circle with the same center. Here, let me draw a better circle. But its radius, let's call it big R, is twice the radius of circle A. So the radius is 4. But since the equation for a circle says that on the right hand side there is an r squared, we have to square this value. So k is going to equal 16 because the radius squared, 4 squared, is 16 using the equation of a circle. So the value of k is 16, not 4. A business owner plans to purchase the same model chair for each of the 28 employees. The total budget to spend on these chairs is $14,000, which includes a 7% sales tax. Which of the following is closest to the maximum possible price per chair before sales tax the business owner could pay based on this budget? So the business owner has 81 employees, and he's buying one chair for all of them. So 81 times P, the price of a chair, gives us the total cost of the chairs. But we also have to account for the sales tax. So to account for that, we can multiply by 1.07. This would apply a 7% sales tax. So this cannot equal or cannot exceed $14,000. So to find the maximum price per chair that we can spend, we have to find a value of P such that we get right up to the budget of $14,000. So now we can just solve for the value of P. So if we isolate for P by dividing both sides by 81 times 1.07, so it'll look something like this. 81 times 1.07. We just divided both sides by the product of 81 and 1.07, and if we simplify that down, we'll get 161.53. So the maximum price we can spend on one chair is 161.53 before sales tax. So that's answer choice B. The graphs of the equations in the given system of equations intersect at the point xy in the xy plane. What is a possible value of x? So we're given these two equations here, and in order to find the value of x where they intersect, we can just graph these in Desmos and see the point of intersection. So here is the graph of these two functions. I've put them both into Desmos. I've isolated for y. So in the first equation, I move this 8x to the other side by subtracting 8x from both sides. And then in the second one, I just moved the 341 to the other side by subtracting 341 from both sides. So when we graph these, one is a line and the other is a parabola. We just look at the points of intersection. So here they intersect at -15 and 109, so that's just the xy coordinates. So the x coordinate at this point of intersection is -15, and the xy coordinates of the other point of intersection are 11, -99. So the two possible values of x are -15 and 11. And the only answer choice that has one of these is answer choice A. So -15 is a possible value for the value of x at a point of intersection. How many solutions does this equation have? So we can just start simplifying this down. 10 times 15x is 150x, minus 10 times 9, which is 90, is equal to -15 times 6, which is equal to -90 again. And then -15 times -10 is equal to 150x. And then we can see here that both sides of these equations are equal. So if we try to isolate for x, say by subtracting negative 50x to the other side, we would just get 0, and we'd just be left with negative 90 equals negative 90. And this is always true, which means that no matter the value of x, no matter what value you set to x, both sides of the equation will always be true. Which means this equation, the system of this equation, has infinitely many solutions. You can set x to be any value, and both sides of the equation will always be equal to each other. When the quadratic function f is graphed in the xy plane, where y equals f of x, its vertex is negative 3, 6. One of the x-intercepts of this graph is negative 17 over 4, 0. What is the other x-intercept of the graph? So we have a parabola, the graph of the quadratic f of x, and its vertex down here is negative 3, 6. One of its x-intercepts is this coordinate here, the negative 17 over 4, 0. And the other x-intercept is what we have to find. So its coordinate will look like some constant k, 0. Since it's on the x-axis, the y value is always 0. And we can use the fact that this distance here from one of the x-intercepts to the vertex is always equal to the distance from the vertex to the other x-intercept, which is saying that the vertex is in between the two x-intercepts. So to find the distance from the x distance between the x-intercept and the vertex, we just need to find the difference between negative 17 over 4 and negative 3. So negative 17 over 4 minus negative 3 is equal to negative 17 plus 12 over 4. We just, these two negative signs just became a plus sign, and I just changed the 3 over 1 to 12 over 4, which is just equivalent to 3, but now they have the same denominator, so we can add them together. So negative 17 plus 12 is equal to negative 5 over 4. And that's the negative distance, so the real distance is just 5 over 4, since distance can't be a negative value. So this distance between this x-intercept and the vertex is 5 over 4, and that means so is this distance. So in order to find the value of x here, we can just add 5 over 4 to negative 3. So negative 3 plus 5 over 4 is equal to negative 12 plus 5 over 4, which is equal to negative 7 over 4. So I just turned this negative 3 into negative 12 over 4, and that allows us to add these two terms together, since now they have a common denominator. So the value of x at the x-intercept is going to be negative 7 over 4, and the y value will just be 0 since it's an x-intercept. So that's answer choice number, or answer choice B. The graph of y equals f of x plus 14 is shown. Which equation defines function f? Okay, so this graph here shows us a line that has a y-intercept at a y value of 2. So y equals 2 at the y-intercept for this graph. And the question asks us to find the equation of function f. But f of x is equal to y minus 14. So here, the function y is equal to f of x plus 14, but we can just solve for f of x by moving this 14 to the other side. So y minus 14 equals f of x. So the y-intercept of f of x should be 14 units lower than the y-intercept of y. So 2 minus 14 is negative 12. And the only function here in the answer choices that has a y-intercept of negative 12 is a. In the given equation, b is a constant. For which of the following values of b will the equation have more than one real solution? So to see how many solutions a quadratic has, we can calculate the discriminant, which is equal to b squared minus 4ac, where b is the coefficient of the x term, which is coincidentally also b here. A is the coefficient of the x squared term, and c is the constant. So the discriminant here is equal to b squared minus 4 times 64 times 25, which is equal to b squared minus 6400. And a quadratic has two solutions when the discriminant is greater than 0. So in this case, when b squared is greater than 6400. And there are two possible solutions for b, when b is greater than 80 or when b is less than negative 80. So b has to be either greater than 80 or less than negative 80 for b squared to be greater than 6400. This will give us a positive discriminant, which means the quadratic will have two solutions, which is more than one. So the only answer choice that fits one of these two requirements is answer choice A, since it is less than negative 80. The graph of 7x plus 2y equals negative 31 in the xy plane has an x-intercept at a comma 0 and a y-intercept at 0 comma b, where a and b are constants. What is the value of b over a? So this graph right here, we can just solve for the x and y intercepts to find the values of a and b and then divide them. So for the x-intercept, we need to solve for the value of x when y equals 0. So when y equals 0, we're left with 7x equals negative 31, since 2 times 0 is just 0. So then x equals negative 31 over 7. And then for the y-intercept, we need to solve for the value of y when x is equal to 0. So when x is equal to 0, 7 times 0 is 0, and we're just left with 2y equals negative 31. So then y is equal to negative 31 over 2. So this value we solve for when we're looking at the x-intercept. This is the value of a, negative 31, 7, comma 0. Since a comma 0 is the x-intercept, and we found x to equal negative 31 over 7 at the x-intercept. And then for the y-intercept, this y value is the value of b, 0 comma negative 31 over 2. That's the y-intercept. So then the ratio of b over a is just negative 31 over 2 over negative 31 over 7, which is just equal to 7 over 2, since the 31s will cancel out, and so will the negative sign, which is equal to answer choice D. In the given system of equations, t is a constant. If the system has no solution, what is the value of t? So we can just start solving these two equations by elimination. So we'll multiply both sides of the second equation by negative 2. So on the left-hand side, we'll have negative 2ty, and then on the right-hand side, we'll have negative 1 minus 4x. And we'll just add that to the first equation but we'll just reverse this so that the x terms cancel out. So we'll have 10y plus 2 equals 4x minus 6y. This is just the first equation here. So then on the left hand side, we'll just have 10y plus 2 minus 2ty, which equals negative 1, and then 4x minus 4x is just 0, and then we'll be left with negative 6y. Okay, and then in order for this system of equations to have no solutions, then we need to simplify down the elimination until we get an incorrect equation, or an equation that cannot be true. And in order to get that here, we need to somehow cancel out these y terms. So we can cancel out these y terms by setting t to some value such that 10y minus 2ty equals negative 6y. Because if this equaled negative 6y, then we would just cancel out the two negative 6y's, and we'd be left with an equation that says 2 equals negative 1, which is false, and that means the system has no solution. So we can solve for y here. So negative 2ty equals, after we move the negative 10y to the other side, we'll get negative 16y. Then we can cancel out the y here to get negative 2t equals negative 16. So then t has to equal 8. So if we plug this back into our original equation here, we'll see that 10y plus 2 minus 16y equals negative 1 minus 6y. So then 10y minus 16y is equal to negative 6y, and there's a 2 here, equals negative 1 minus 6y. And then since negative 6y is on both sides, we can cancel those out, and we'll just be left with 2 equals negative 1, which is obviously false. So for a t value of 8, this system of equations has no solution. So the answer is 8. An isosceles right triangle has a hypotenuse of length 58 inches. What is the perimeter in inches of this triangle? So we have an isosceles right triangle whose hypotenuse is 58 inches. And since it is isosceles, it means the length of both of these sides is the same. So let's just say they're x units in length. So then using the Pythagorean theorem, we know that x squared plus x squared is equal to 58 squared. The sum of the square of the legs is equal to the square of the hypotenuse. So we can just combine these two like terms to get 2x squared equals 58 squared. And then we can divide both sides by 2 to get x squared equals 58 squared over 2. And then take the square root, so we get x equals 58 over square root 2. So the length of both of these legs is 58 over square root 2. Then we can also rationalize this denominator in order to get an answer that looks more like one of these answer choices. So we can do that by just multiplying the top and the bottom by the square root of 2. So x equals 58 square root 2 over root 2 times root 2 is just 2. And then this is just 29 times the square root of 2. So both of these x values are 29 times the square root of 2. So then the perimeter is just 29 square root 2 plus another 29 square root 2. That's both of these sides, plus the length of the hypotenuse, which is 58. And then 29 plus 29 is equal to 58. And then we just keep the square root 2 plus 58. So the perimeter is equal to this, which is equal to answer choice C. For the linear function f, the table shows 3 values of x and their corresponding values of f of x. Function f is defined by f of x equals ax plus b, where a and b are constants. What is the value of a minus b? So we have this table showing us values of x and their corresponding values of f of x. So we can use this to write the equation of a line using this form ax plus b. So in order to find the value of a, which is just the slope, since that's what's being multiplied with x, we can take 2 points and find the rise over the run between those 2 points. So we can use this point, 2, 0, and this point, 1, negative 64. So the change in x values is 2 minus 1, which will be our denominator, and then the rise will be 0 minus 64. This is 0 minus negative 64, which is just equal to 64 over 1. So that's the value of a, 64. Then to find the value of b, we can just plug in this value of a, and then plug in values of a point from this table. So our function f of x equals a, which is 64, times x plus b. But we know that for an x value of, say, 2, the f of x value is 0. So f of x is 0 when 64 times x equals 2 plus b. So then 0 equals 64 times 2 is 128 plus b. So then b is equal to negative 128. So now we have value of a and the value of b. So a, 64, minus b, negative 128, is equal to 192, which is answer choice D. Dataset A consists of 10 positive integers, less than 60. The list shown gives 9 of the integers from dataset A. The mean of these 9 integers is 42. If the mean of dataset A is an integer that is greater than 42, what is the value of the largest integer from dataset A? So to find the mean of this dataset, we just add up all the terms, 43 plus 45 plus 44 plus 43 plus 38 plus 39 plus 40 plus 46 plus 40. And then the 10th term that we are going to find is, we'll just say it's x. And then we just divide that by the total number of terms, which is 10. And this here, after we add all these together, we get 378 plus x, which is the 10th term, we don't know yet, over 10. So we're trying to find the value of x. We're trying to find the value of x because the problem says that the mean of these 9 integers is 42. But the mean of dataset A after we add the x, or the 10th integer, is greater than 42, which means that x has to be larger than 42. Okay, so now if we look at x, we know that it is an integer, or that the mean of dataset A is an integer, which means that in order for this mean right here to be an integer, this numerator has to be divisible by 10. And that's only possible when the numerator is a multiple of 10. And in order for this to be a multiple of 10, x has to be 2, because when in the ones place, x has to be 2, because when we add 2 in the ones place to 378, we'll get some multiple of 10. So we'll put 2 in the ones place. And we also know this has to be a 2-digit term, because these 10 terms have to be less than 60. So we know the ones place, but now the tens place we automatically also know, because this x value has to be larger than 42, because the mean of dataset A is larger than 42, but since the mean of these 9 integers is 42, we need a value larger than 42 to push the mean above 42. And since the x value has to be larger than 42 but less than 60, the only number that has a 2 in the ones place that is larger than 42 and less than 60 is 52. So x has to be 52. And if we look at these numbers, we can see that 52 is the largest of these 10 numbers. So the largest integer in dataset A is 52, which is the 10th term. For groups of 25 or more people, a museum charges $21 per person for the first 25 people, and $14 for each additional person. Which function f gives the total charge in dollars for a tour group with n people, where n is greater than or equal to 25? Okay, so to find f as a function of n, the number of people, we first considered the first 25 people. So the first 25 people are charged $21 per person. So the total amount charged for the first 25 people is 25 times 21. Then we have to add how much is charged for the rest of the people after the 25th person. So that would be 14, since people after the 25th are only charged 14 per person. And then n minus 25. Because the first 25 people were charged 21, but then the rest were charged 14. So we're not going to just multiply by n, we have to multiply by n minus 25, because only the people after the 25th are charged 14. So then we can just expand this out. So 25 times 21 is 525 plus 14n minus 14 times 25, which is 350. And then, so 14n and then 525 minus 350 is just 175. So this function represents the total charge for n people when n is greater than or equal to 25, which is just answer choice A. In triangles LMN and RST, angles L and R each have measure 60 degrees. LN equals 10 and RT equals 3. Which additional piece of information is sufficient to prove that triangle LMN is similar to triangle RST? So let's draw out these true triangles. So this is triangle LMN, and this is triangle RST. So angles L and R are both 60 degrees. So this and this are the same angle. LN and RT are 10 and 30. So LN is 10, RT is 30. What additional piece? Okay, so answer choice A says that MN equals 7 and ST equals 7. Now that doesn't prove that these two triangles are similar, because the fact that LN and RT are 10 and 30 suggests that the sides on this triangle are 1/3 the sides on this triangle, if they were similar. But if both of these are 7, then that means these two cannot possibly be similar triangles, because there's not some constant dilation factor to get from one triangle to another. So A is incorrect. MN is 7 and ST is 21. This is not enough information to prove that two triangles are similar, because the third side could be of any length. So it's not constrained enough by the fact that this angle is equal to that one and that these two sides are proportional. So B cannot be the answer either. The measures of angle M and S are 70 and 60 degrees respectively. So if M is 70 degrees and S is 60 degrees, and if these two triangles now cannot be similar, since M corresponds to angle S, but since they have different angles, they cannot be similar triangles. A similar triangle, two similar triangles have equal corresponding angles. So L would equal R, M would equal S, and N would equal T. So C is not correct either, which leaves us with D, but let's see why D is correct. So the measures of angle M and angle T are 70 and 50 respectively. So if angle M is 70 degrees, so let's say 70, and angle S is 50 degrees, and we know that angle L and R are both 60. Sorry, this angle T is 50 degrees, and we know that angle L is 60 degrees, and we know that angle R is also 60 degrees. So I'm just redrawing the triangles here with the angles. So now that we know two angles in both triangles, we can solve for the third angle. So since all the angles in a triangle have to add up to 180, this angle here has to be 50 degrees. And the same in this case. 180 minus 60 is 120. 120 minus 50 is 70. So now we can see that all three of these triangles, when M and T are 70 and 50 degrees respectively, all three of the angles are the same, which means that would be enough information to show that LMN and RST are similar triangles. So D is the correct answer.